there are all these aspirational people moving, but there are also these very, very, who are being forced to move out due to various climate change impacts. And I think this learning is very, very interesting and very, very useful to me as a person. I'm not able to contribute also like most of other working professionals, but I think I have to, bow down my head to both Abhay sir and Sahu sir for being extremely, such nice teachers, approachable and very eloquent in very slowly saying it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Abha, for your appreciation. And Abha is working with UNDP very professionally, very much knowledgeable in this field already. So I feel happy that always she gives input to any classroom she is there. That classroom, the level rises. So this is the power of anybody like Abha's teacher coming to a classroom. We have Ranjit ji and Abha. So many people. I think the new batch will experience that aura of this batch. How they are very much participatory and generating lots of debate. So now, without delay, I request Abha to please start your class.
Sada, can you make me the host, please?
Yes, 1 minute.
Just
Yes,
give me a sec so that I can. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Without much ado, we can start. Just a sec. Okay. So we are going to be talking about religious identity today. In fact, last time we were talking about ethnic identity. For all the new people who have come to the class for the first time, most welcome. We have a couple of rules in the class. One of the rules is the fact that you can stop me at any moment of time by either interrupting or writing on the chat if you have to ask a question or if you have to share anything. There is no concept of asking at the end. You just stop at that moment to add something or to ask a question. That's number one. Number two is the fact that remember academics and scholarly pursuit is more like perspectives. We will not go into the process of right or wrong, good or bad. We are looking at perspectives. So more often than not, if I define something, if I quote something, I will try and give you the author of that quote so that you understand. And remember, everything works in the realm of ideology, politics. There are multiple realms in which things work. People are working with various realms. So these are all perspectives. So don't get into this thing about that this should not be done or this should be done. Academics is about perspectives. Okay. We will be having a digital orientation on Saturday. Okay. Right. So identity becomes a very important thing with human beings. In fact, we have over the last whatever months that we've been talking about in various units, it's about identity. And the best way to understand identity is the fact that if you are going to, let's say, a party or a symposium or a class or something for the first time, how would you meet or greet the other person? More often than not, you would say, I am so and so, and the other person introduces their name. But what is the next question that they ask? More often that you ask is, what do you do? Or who are you? And that's where identity comes in. So more often than not, typically people look at identity in terms of the job they have or the designation they have or the place they come from or the caste or the religion or any other thing that we talk about. So today we are going to be talking about the religious identity. Uh, Most of the PPTs that I go through or I'm going to be presenting, I take a lot from the self-learning module that you have been sent. In case you have not got the units, you will be sent in the due course. Okay, there is a YouTube channel also on which whatever we talk comes out there. So most of the material that I'm going to be putting in the PPT is from the self-learning module, but also at places where I find that the module is either not very lucid or needs further augmentation, then I pick up some case studies from outside. For example, in this particular unit, I have picked up some stories, some media stories. So we are looking at meaning and concept of religious identity. We are looking at limitations and religious identity and migration. And remember, human beings might move again. Basic thing we need to understand the story of humankind is the story of migration. People have been migrating all the time. And yet there is this major negotiation between people who are migrating and people who do not want people to migrate. So today, if you see the world, there is this major fight between immigrants and citizens. Citizens don't want immigrants, and yet they know the economies would not work, nations would not work, and yet there is a political fight. So some of the identity theories we picked up. So identity theories, Freud and me talked about construct a secure self. Identity is more like what I or an individual thinks of himself or herself, and identity is also what everybody else thinks about that individual. Similarly, as there is an individual identity, there is a group identity as to what the group thinks about itself and how the others think about this group. So, satisfy higher order needs or efforts to achieve a sense of connection or belonging. So, these are some of the identity theories. We need to understand migration and diaspora studies is an interdisciplinary subject. So there are multiple, subjects that we bring in. So some of this that we are talking about is currently sociology. So the identity process. Hang on, there is a different perspectives to comprehend the reason between people's try to create a kind of identity. And more often than not, identity works in the way as how one defines oneself and how the society defines that person. It's socially, culturally, historically, and politically constituted. It's more like a concept which is conjured by a person in his or her head, or culturally or society, how the process has come in. So Henry proposes that stereotyping is putting people into groups and category based on a normal cognitive process. We exaggerate the difference between the groups and similarity to things in the same group. Identity also works as a process by which there is we versus others. So let's say we were to put an identity of, let's say, Tamilians. So then Tamilians would try and say what is common to Tamilian as a group. And then the others would be who are non-Tamilians, or Punjabis or Biharis, that would be local, or otherwise people from Britain would, how would they find out they are same, British people are same, and how they differ from French, how they differ from German, how they differ from American, and so on and so forth. Groups we belong to the in group as being different from the others, and members of the same group as more similar than they are. Now, the interesting point is, even within a common identity group, there are obviously differences because identity is not a monolith concept. Because we could have a religious identity, we could have an ethnic identity, we could have a national identity, we could have a gender identity, we could have a sexual identity. There are so many identities, and in fact, many identities work concurrently. Say, for example, I'm a male, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son. These are multiple identities. I'm a professor, I'm an environmentalist, I'm a migration scholar. There are multiple identities. Social categorization is one explanation for prejudiced attitude, them versus us, which leads to in-group and out-group. So identity functions in a lot way to unite, but at the same time, identity works in a lot way to divide. And more often than not, when we say identity politics, it is how politics is or politicians use the identity concept to either unite or divide groups for the political process. I hope you are able to see my slides move and my voice, and I hope my delivery is not too fast. In case there is any problem, please immediately react or come back. I hope I'm going in a normal pace, not too fast. All good, sir. Thanks. Thanks, Priyanka. Okay. Thanks, Rishika. Based on ascribed status such as religion, caste, ethnicity. As I said last Saturday, we were talking about ethnic identity. And this categorization provides certain norms to behave and cultures to adopt. What would that particular group do? So, for example, today, uh, I saw a lot of people who practice Jainism be there in white clothes. Some were carrying a Jain flag. They had assembled near the Jain temple. So I assumed the fact there was some festival of the Jain community because they were, wearing identical clothes. They were behaving in an identical fashion. They were having symbols of a similar type, and that's how norms get made. The second step in social identification and emotional significance to one's identification with the group. More often than not, we tend to derive a lot of emotional or other benefit when we are a part of group. Remember, no individual can survive alone. We always want to be a part of the group. We want to be a part of a family. We want to be a part of an extended kin group. We want to be a part of the other identity groups. And we are bound with group membership. And as soon as one starts identifying oneself with a group, a comparative analysis with other groups remain. We are like this, and they are like this. We have heard this in the realm of the current politics, we versus them, or in the realm of the migration debate in, let's say, the Western countries, in the US. The immigrants are like this, we are like this. And that's how the binary of we versus others get created. Through finding the optimal balance between motivation for an individual uniqueness and the group belonging. So, and if you notice, all of us at all the time are negotiating. We are negotiating in terms of our identity, we are negotiating in terms of group identities. Identities itself is a very fluid concept which keeps changing. And any person or they feel that identity is rock solid is not correct, because it is very fluid, it keeps moving. So what is religious identity? In addition to psychological studies, sociologists and anthropologists also apply the term religious identity process given to a social context. So religious identity can be studied under different subjects. Is a specific type of identity formation, sense of group membership to a religion, and to the importance of this group membership pertains to one's self-concept. Not necessarily the same as religiousness or religiosity. So religious identity is different. Similarly, what we talked about ethnic identity. So last time Jiten had asked this question about ethnic identity. So you are projecting yourself as an identity, as a person of a particular ethnic group. You may not follow all the norms of that group, but you are a part of that group. Similarly, you may be a particular religious identity, you may not be even religious at all, or you may not be even following the rituals or the various things associated with that religion. Although the three terms share a commonality, religiousness and religiosity refers to the value of religious as well as participation in religious events. Religious identity refers specifically to the group membership, regardless of the religious activity or participation. So one needs to understand this difference. You don't need to have a religious identity to practice religion or religious, events or rituals or whatever. Religious content can also provide a perspective to view the world. Foundations can come to shape an individual's identity. And this is what gives us context in terms of how we see the world. For example, one important study, becoming a Muslim, the development of a religious identity in the United States out of the events of September 11, explored the meaning making among American Muslims and how changes in identity ascription, how Muslims sought to represent. In fact, there is a case study of Sikhs in Canada, how they represent themselves. So more often than not, how you are, your identity, how you like to represent that identity to the rest of the people, or how do you think about that identity in your own self. Religious identity is a constant conflict with many other identities. Women, gay, lesbian workers, minority, ethnic, and diasporic identities. Diasporic is also an identity social groups can be a member of. Impossible to maintain an exclusive identity based on religion. So, religion, nationality, your diasporic status, your gender, your sex, your the kind of work, all these identities keep negotiating, and based on what is important or what is convenient at that time, you use that identity. Let me skip. We are already a little short of time. Came from Latino. Exists as a set of beliefs and practices. Was sacred and profane. Between sacred and profane, supernatural recognized as a community of people. No generally accepted definition of religious takes into account the nature of discipline, diversity of religion. According to Durkheim, so now we are entering the realm of sociology. Religious phenomena categorized into two basic categories, belief and rites. The first are states of opinion. The second are particular modes of action, belief and rites. More often than not, religion, as per sociology and the sociological scholars, is a construct, a human construct. Inevitably, it gives a sense of identity. Gives a sense of, a meaning to a person's life. It also brings in a concept of morality, where there is something higher than the human being, and then the human being works under that something higher to provide to identity, felt empowered, formed through religious texts, oral traditions, myths, songs, laws, and players. All they serve a psychological stability and enhance the self-esteem of group of individuals. And inevitably, for example, when I'm talking to my undergrad and grad student, and we have this talk about sects, we have this talk about Babas, and we talked about Sufis and all this thing. And that's what I said. Inevitably, if any person who projects himself or herself as a religion or a religious figure or a higher form and provides some benefits to his followers, his or her followers, how we can judge that person to be right or wrong? Because inevitably, they are able to provide something which the followers want. So that's how religion works in. It gets people to feel empowered in terms of feeling. It provides a kind of justification and psychological stability to people for their deeds and suffering. Then there is something called functionalism, critical sociology. We can go forward on this. Conceptualize that religion is a social fact. It helps consolidate society. Think about the fact that if there was no moral high or there was something that people need to defer to, there would be a complete pandemic, a complete commotion. People will not know what to, so today religion offers that higher being, saying that people are inferior to that higher thing And that is why there is some order of, order in the society. These moral obligations help maintain a kind of order in the society. God-loving and God-fearing, both kinds of people, to keep themselves away from wrongdoing. Ecological balance was maintained when people, and if you notice, more often than not, most religions use common, logical, and contextual practices in the form of religion. So, for example, if you look at the majority religion in India of Hinduism, the practice of worshipping people or burger tree was the fact that these trees were hardy, that worship made sure that, willy-nilly anybody did not cut them. They are the trees which also provide some sort of a dark processes of oxygen in the night. So they had some function out of which they were brought into the element of sacred. When people identify with religion, they visualize certain optimistic reasons. The anger of the deity of religion also shows that wrongdoings are not accepted. Some sort of an order in the society. Limitations, obviously, anything has limitation. Become a member of religious group, identifies with some, automatically excludes from other religious groups. So here, not only it adds to a person's confidence or some gratification, but it is in the form of dividing the human society, because an identity based on religion is exclusive. Person can gain from one religion only. However, one can have faith in other religious practices, but the formation of identity is exclusive. So you cannot say that I am a part of two religions or three religions. People will look at you with as though you're really weird. Human history has witnessed several conflicts based on religious identity. Politics is done around a religious identity. Struggle begins automatically to keep one's religious group at the top over there. See, as soon as the we versus they come in, there is obviously some politics which come. And for all the people who keep talking about that politics is not a part of this, politics is a part of human society. Politics is a basic part of every human society, every human being. Crusades were fought, Christian church. So let's look at how this religious identity, migration, and diaspora come in. Think about the fact that when people migrate, they carry their identity, they carry their culture, they carry their nationality along with them. They do not change. Identity based on religion is strengthened or weakened in a manner of debate. We had this case study in earlier units where there were these girls, teenage girls from Kerala, who went on to become nurses in Germany. These were the girls who came from interior of Kerala. They did not know German, they did not know English, and yet they did nursing and caregiving in Germany. How? Because there was a common religious identity of the church. So they were able to find comfort in the church, and that's how they were able to. And this was a case study of the 60s, when there was no internet, there was no WhatsApp, there was there was no way to communicate so easily. The transportation was very bad or slow. Religion came to comfort them. Religious works as a marker of identity for migrant people in host countries. Sometimes religious conflict in home countries provide a for. And today we have seen with internet, with globalization, fast transport, and faster media, whatever happens in home country influences the host country diaspora, and whatever happens in host country comes back into the host country. There is a very fast give and take which is happening. It's in almost in real time that the information flows. So I picked up this news item in global news. Sikhism, Islam, Sikhism, and why immigration drives religion in Canada. It's the curriculum of our life. In fact, there was a case study of this particular Sikh who traveled to one part of northern Canada where there were about 200 Sikh families, and he goes there and his efforts to establish a Gurdwara. And that religious place is a place where people come together and meet and express their identity. And a part of this article Same, Sikhism, which is both an ethnic group and a religion, now represents 1.4%. In fact, what I was reading, now Sikhs represent 2.1% of Canada. In fact, they are the largest groups of Sikhs outside India. The number is from 0.9% in 2001. According to World Sikh Organization Canada, there are approximately 5 lakh Sikhs living in the country. Another part of the same article, Randhawa ride in Toronto, where men wearing turbans were an uncommon sight. And that was a part of his identity. He applied for a job and he met with confusion over his dress code because one set of identity is now looking at another identity. They asked me, well, what will you do with the turban? I said, well, I have to keep it as long, if I've kept it for this long, I will keep it. Do you want to hire someone you can trust? And look at how he has used, how Randhawa used his Sikh identity to, to bring upon themselves or to sell himself as a trustworthy individual. So that's how the identity was used by a diasporic person to assimilate or to integrate in a host nation. Identity can work both ways. It can help integrate or assimilate, or it can bring in a conflict. Robert Schweiter listed numerous reasons why religion can be a significance for individual migrants, can be a reason for religion can be a reason for migration. Religion sustains people in times of difficulty. So, for example, the Rohingyas, because of their religious identity, were persecuted in Myanmar and were forced to leave their country. It was because of the religion. Also, religion sustains people in times of difficulty. The typical case study of those girls from Kerala who went to, Germany. Religion helped them in their transition times. They gave them comfort. Can serve as an identity marker in a new context or a source for reconciliation and healing, where the story of migration and migrant experience have been humiliating, hurtful, violent, or debilitating. More often than not, whenever you are hurt and when you are down, is the time when the religious go into places of worship. Religion can also aid a person in giving meaning to his or her migration experience or function as a resource in resolving adjustment issue. Because more often than not, these are identities which tend to get you familiarized with similar identities. So, for example, let's say if I'm by surname, I'm a Punjabi, I go into a new place and I come across another person speaking Punjabi, I immediately become, comfortable that there is another person who's speaking. So, similarly, group identity. Outside one nation state, religion plays a very decisive role in determining identity of migration. Religion is seen as contesting ground for migrants. Very few works have been done on negative role of religion. So more often than not, religion works in a positive way. Though now we are also seeing this, migration of politics between home and host countries, between, if there is a religion strife in the home country, the religion strife goes outside. If there is outside, more often than not, it comes inside. And all these movements are happening because of a new world order. Sometimes two or more identities are juxtaposed. Ethnic identities thrive on the lines of religious affiliations. So if you see, we have a typical case study of Manipur, where there are two ethnic identities, and each ethnic identity has a separate religious identity. Though the fact is, one ethnic identity has multiple religious identities, and yet there is this ethnic religious identity pitted against a second ethnic religious identity. Likewise, it's also been witnessed that sometimes religious identities can be opposed to nation state based identities, demanding a new sovereign nation state. So, again, as I said, identities are fluid, they keep on moving. For example, Sikh diaspora during 1990 quest for a homeland became part and pride of recognition. Tatla in Sri Lanka, a parochial form of religion, made one ethnic group the target of another frustration. Sri Lankan diaspora is also divided on the lines of religion, division, and politicization of Ethiopian ethnic and religious group. See, that's how the identity politics plays out. Remember, human beings have multiple identities. There are no particular identity is monolith. Each identity is further fragmented. These identities keep on moving, and that's how then politicians or politics take advantage of particular communication or other stuff to play on the on the identities, which is summing up different perspectives to comprehend the reason between people drive to create kind of identity, social, cultural, historical, and politically constituted concept. Two ways: firstly, how one defines oneself and how society defines himself and herself. Categorization of people based on ascribed status. Categorization provides certain norms to behave. No generally accepted definition of religion. Specific type of identity formation, sense of group membership, serve as an identity marker in new context, can also aid a person in giving meaning. So there are differences. These references I have picked up from your self-learning material. And I think I can stop sharing now and switch on my video in case you have any questions. So please understand two things. I am not on WhatsApp. I am on Signal, and my laptop has a problem. So I am on Signal and Telegram messaging app. Let me just type. I am not on WhatsApp. I'm on Signal and Telegram. This is my contact number in case you want to get in touch with me. All these presentations are available on YouTube. In case you want me to send, this is my my email ID. I am writing, so you can send me an email and I can send you the PPT. Not an issue at all. Sorry, the second one is my email ID. So at any moment of time, you want to, you want to ask me something or chat with me, then I'm on Signal and Telegram. I'm not on WhatsApp. You can take the PPT if you write me an email. Any question? Any question that you wish to ask? Anything that you would like to share?
So this is Abha. I just wanted to understand. So have there been studies on how a religious identity change the existing scenario of that particular space? Like you mentioned, the Rohingyas coming in. Now their religious identity is different than what is there in Manipur and other places. So if they are there for a long time, how does it reciprocate, or how does it intermingle? How does it interfere in the overall condition before they came? Sorry, a little
Okay.
minded of question.
Okay. So Rohingyas, I'm not sure, are in Manipur. So Rohingyas have been, have been driven out of Myanmar and have moved into Thailand, Bangladesh, India. I'm not sure if there is no study which has been done on in terms of Rohingyas, but I was picking up these news stories on Sikhs in Canada. More often than not, whatever news stories I haven't come across research because this would require a rather longish research to figure out if a particular religious identity is affecting. See, it would religion is a part of culture. Now, inevitably, we know very well that culturally, whenever migration happens, it does tend to affect the host society as well as get affected from the host society. There are all these amalgamations which happen in terms of culture. In terms of a religious identity, more often than not, uh, everybody holds on to that identity for some reason, unless there is say for example, when the Dalits moved on and quit Hinduism and took Buddhism as a religious identity, they did it as a political move. If I come across any study, Abha, I can share it with you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Now, I think
Sada sir, are you aware of any study of that kind? I'm not offhand, I am not aware, but I can certainly search and I can tell you. Abha?
right.
Which you are
Thank
telling
you.
about Rohingya community?
No, no.
No, no,
She's
sir,
talking
doesn't
about the fact that if is there a study about religious identity, just a particular religious group coming in, and that particular religious identity affecting the host society where they come in? Is there a how does it work out? See, more often than not, one
No,
thing
no.
is there. Sorry.
There are
Yes.
many studies. In fact, the concept of multiculturalism in Australia emerged out of that. You know, religion is one of the major component. To accommodate that, they use this concept of multiculturalism in policy. And many countries, in fact, religion is a major aspect of how the cultural aspect of any society changes. In fact, that is a very contentious issue in the entire Europe. They're feeling that after some day will be minority because many other communities are coming. And
Which is what is happening
hey,
in the US too. Which is what is
no,
happening
no,
in
no,
the
it is
US too.
happening even
Sir, may I interrupt you?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, you're.
Yeah, sir, if I look at the Indian situation, I can say the person who were moving towards Vrindavan, so what we consider them like the old age people,
Hmm.
or the Tamilians or the other people who came to Varanasi for this moksha kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it's again a question of religious identity. And I can say if I saw ISKCON in I can say Oslo, maybe Oslo. Yeah, I have seen the ISKCON. So ISKCON is again a religious identity, and I was meaning I met a lots of people over there who is believing in our culture and our religious things. So maybe I think we can search something over there, like maybe we can search some papers regarding them and all.
Yeah,
Maybe.
in fact, Jyoti, Abha was asking for a specific study. Abha, I can search out one study or some studies which have been done on this and share it with you. Abha?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Because it really would change how things have to be administratively done also. If there are, as Sadanand sir also mentioned, and I think it really makes an interesting study.
You
Thank you.
In fact, Abha, sorry, Sada sir.
Yes, sir.
no,
Abha,
I'm saying that there is a journal on Sikhism from, UK. You can see lots of Sikh diaspora related articles are there. So the studies are on religion, Sikhism and all.
okay.
There's so many studies. I'm not, able to Google it, but there are so many studies you can Google also.
Right.
Abha, in fact, when we try and tailor programs on environment using culture and religion, they work very effectively. And more often than not, we see that most of the environment programs that we structure are bureaucratic responses, and more often than not, they don't work with communities. So if you are able to tailor programs, especially environment, with respect to the culture of a particular community, and if you were looking at a religious identity or the religious norms or religiosity or the practices they do, it works very effective.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think
Okay.
that really works.
Okay. Any other question? We've already crossed our time. Okay, so in case there is no other question, we will call it a day. I will see you next Saturday at 3 o'clock again to pick up. I think the next unit is on caste. We will talk about caste. These core concepts become very important because inevitably, as I said, whenever a person migrates or moves out of a home country, he or she carries all these markers along, and then they go out there and negotiate as new markers. In fact, they remain as the same, and now you negotiate with a different set of markers. So we will take the cast aspect. You have a nice weekend and a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you next Saturday at 3 o'clock. Bye, guys.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.